Okay, thank you, and welcome to our Tuesday Torah class. We'll be in Leviticus 19, we're gonna read 19b down through 25 and finish off chapter 19. So let me open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much that we could read your word and study your word, looking into the book of Leviticus, Father. I ask you give us eyes to see and ears to hear, Father, wisdom and discernment into your word. We thank you so much for all this in Yeshua's name. Amen. Okay. So let me read these verses here. I'll move this a bit so I can see what I'm reading. Starting here, 19, starting here at B. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with a diverse kind. Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed, neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee. And whosoever lies carnally with a woman that is a bondmaid betrothed to a husband, and not at all redeemed, nor freedom given her, she shall be scourged. They shall not be put to death, because she was not free. So this word scourged, it sounds pretty rough, but it's this word bikoret. It actually means it could mean scourge, but it also means punishment after judicial inquiry, could mean compensation, properly examination, by implication, punishment, scourge. So I think in this case, it means more, they're going to look into the matter and see what's up with it, basically. They're not put to death because she was not free. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto Yahweh unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, even a ram for a trespass offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for him with the ram of the trespass offering before Yahweh for his sin which he has done, and the sin which he has done shall be forgiven him. And when he shall come into the land, when he shall come into the land and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, and you shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years it shall be as uncircumcised unto you, it shall not be eaten of. But in the 4th year, all the fruit thereof shall be holy to praise Yahweh withal. And in the 5th year, you shall eat of the fruit thereof, that it may yield unto you the increase thereof. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. So last week we looked at these two parts, the beginning part and the end part of Leviticus 19. This week we're looking at part 3, the middle portion. And in this middle portion, there are 3 different types of ways he lists to mingle. There's a left side, middle, and a right. In the left side, of course, we have, you don't let your cattle mate with a different kind. Sow your seed with two kinds of seed, or wear a garment of 2 kinds of cloth. And each time it uses this word for a different kind or 2 kinds. I think here it used diverse kind, mingled, and mingled. That word in each case is kil ayin. In the second case, you have the man who lies sexually with a slave woman who's betrothed yet not yet free. So they make an inquiry. They're not put to death. So he brings a guilt offering to the entrance of the tabernacle, and the priest makes atonement for him. And the third case is coming into the land, planting trees. First 3 years, it's forbidden to eat the fruit. I think in the King James it says it's the fruit is uncircumcised to you. So in the 4th year, the fruit is a holy offering of praise to Yahweh. In the 5th year, you can eat the fruit. So in each of these 3 cases, they all have one common thing. And you could probably figure out what that thing is, because I've written some of the
Killing,
terms here. Yeah. Yes.
I said killing.
Well, it is in here, but in these 3, the left, the middle, and the right, there is one thing in common in each of them. It has to do with, I hear somebody. Well, it has to do with reproduction, right? Or seed. So on the left column, and I made some notes here, this left column deals with the individual. So these are like individual commandments. You don't mix your cattle or any other animals. You don't mix seed in your field, one field, and you don't mix seed, 2 kinds of kilayim in a garment. I hear somebody talking. So on the right side, this deals with a community of people. So he's saying when you come into the land, he's talking about all the people. When you go into the land, this is what you do. And so the middle one deals with a man and a woman. So first column is an individual, second column is 2 people, third column is many people. First column, it's a private matter, because apparently these people are doing this secretly. But in the right-hand side, it's a public thing. We're all in the land, we're all planting our trees. The left side, these are bad, forbidden commands. But on the right side, these are good commands. They're positive commands. So in the middle, it's a mixture. You know, we're talking about mixtures. It's kind of a mix between the left and the right. It's a private matter because of this man and woman who are together, but then it's made a public matter because somebody finds out and they have an inquiry. So they want to find out what's going on. So he brings his guilt offering, and we read about guilt offerings in Leviticus 5, where if you do something that you shouldn't do, that's not punishable by death, you can bring an offering, a guilt offering, and you will be, atonement will be made for you. So it's something bad, but it's made good. There's a sense of the forbidden, but there's the assurance of forgiveness. So that's the middle section in a nutshell. Any questions or comments you would like to make?
It's good.
So I did want to look at this word, be correct, the inquiry. And then once again, at the close of this section, closes with, I am Yahweh your Elohim. Let me look at this. Where was that at? That was in verse 20. Uh, where was that word at? is it scourge, I believe? Yeah, that's it, scourge. She shall be scourged. I think we did look at this. So basically, they're just making an inquiry. They're not,
Correct.
to scourge the woman would seem a little harsh, but it could go either way, right? Either she's being punished or, as says here, compensation is being made, because in a sense, she's kind of an innocent party, and being a person who doesn't have her freedom. Part of the reason this guy can be forgiven for this sin is that she doesn't have her freedom. It's almost like she's a non-citizen who's kind of a non-person, so to speak. And the idea is that he's done this matter, it's become known, so they're making an inquiry, not to punish him, but just to kind of let him know that this is not something that you should be doing. And so that's why he has to bring a guilt offering and make atonement. And hopefully he doesn't do it again. So any comments?
Yeah, the Greek word for that is episkope.
Episcope?
Yeah,
Like Episcopal?
you've heard that before in the
Yeah.
Catholic world, which means visitation, office, census, or providence.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. Yeah.
Okay. So that actually closed. Last week we did the beginning and the end of 19. So that takes care of chapter 19. But before we move on to 20, I wanted to show you guys this this article about it's called The Literary Structure of Leviticus by Moshe Klein. And I mentioned his name to you last week from haver.com. So in this article, I'm just going to read a little bit here, but there's a few these chiastic structures he has in here I wanted to show you that are pretty interesting. But I was just going to read the beginning here. We won't read all this because there's a lot of introductory stuff that we can bypass. But I will read this little bit in the abstract. Mary Douglas argues in Leviticus as literature that Bible students have to choose between accepting the muddle made by imposing a Western linear reading upon an archaic text or trying to read the book through its own literary conventions. She gives many examples of how to read a text through its own literary conventions, as well as a broad overview in the form of an analogical reading. In this paper, I substantiate Douglas's approach by systematically defining the 22 literary units that compose Leviticus, as well as the larger structure that connects them. Each of the 22 units has a similar nonlinear structure that can be viewed as a table. The inclusive structure of Leviticus is composed of 3 concentric arrays of units, with Leviticus 19 at the focus. Each array has a common organizing element. The outermost array is place-oriented, the middle array is time-oriented, the inner array is person-oriented. The focus, chapter 19, is holiness. The image created by this arrangement is a holy core that emanates outward through successive arrays of person, time, and place. This structure can be interpreted as an analogical representation of the tabernacle, with chapter 19 parallel to the Ark of the Covenant, the inner array, the Holy of Holies, the middle array, the holy place, the outer array, the courtyard. The experience of reading Leviticus according to this analogy places the reader in a position analogous to the high priest on the Day of Atonement. Like the high priest, the reader follows the inner path to holiness at the center of the book, passing through the courtyard and the holy place to the Holy of Holies. The path is reversed in the second half as the reader high priest returns to society when exiting the tabernacle. So we'll bypass all this and we'll just get to the 22 units that he's talking about. And then we'll look at some of these charts he has where he shows the chiastic structure, as he calls it, an inversion, but it's basically a chiasm. So he's broken these down into, they're called unit triads. He has A, B, C, D, then the focus, chapter 19, E, F, and G. So A is the first unit is chapter 1, which is the burnt offering, the cereal or grain offering, the well-being offering, and the well-being offering being the peace offering. Unit 2 are the sacrifices required for expiation, which are the purification or the sin offering, the graduated purification, sin offering, and the reparation offering, or the, as we call it, usually the, I can't think of the name of it, but what do we call that? Not the, my mind's drawing a blank here. Somebody help me out. Trespass offering or the guilt offering, that's it. So that's, and then chapter 3 is the administrative order, chapter 6 and 7. Did you have a comment?
I was just saying, is that the Shalomim offering?
Yeah, the peace offering is Shalom. So you could see there's 3 units, and so the 3 units form the one triad A. Likewise with B, 3 units form a triad. Number 4 is chapter 8 through 10, the inauguration of the cult and the aftermath. And of course, that was the consecration and inaugural service, then the Nadab and Abihu incident, and then the part where Moses confronts Ithamar and Eleazar about not eating the guilt offering. And then number 5 is chapter 11, the diet laws, and number 6 is chapter 12, childbirth. And then C, which is all the impurity parts, chapters 13 through 15, which deals with scale disease, purification from scale disease, fabrics, people, buildings, genital discharges. And then unit triad D, day of purgation, Yom Kippur, slaughter and consumption of meat, both sacrificial and non-sacrificial, and then illicit sexual practices. And then the focal point being chapter 19, which is the holiness chapter. So then it kind of moves towards that, and then when you get to E, F, and G, it's moving away from that. And so when we cover these chapters, we'll kind of line them up with how they relate chiastically to the previous ones as we get to them. So just know that A and G are chiastically related, B and F. C is actually not in the chiastic part, and we'll look at that in a minute. Why not? D. So an overview is, he calls it his holy present. Unit triad A is 1, 2, and 3, B, 4, 5, and 6, on down the line. So you can see number 13, that would be chapter 19. So what he's done, he's made a he's talking about here, one of the things he talks about is how when you start out like in a unit 1 would be God oriented, 2 connecting God and people, unit 3 people oriented. So it kind of follows that pattern as you look. We'll just use A for an example here. So you could see unit 1 in A deals mainly with the burnt offering, the grain offering, the shalomim offering, which is more God focused than when you get to the expiation, which is God and man, and then the administrative order, which just is more man focused. So you kind of get the idea of that, and each one kind of follows that pattern: God focused, God and man focused, man focused. Same thing for each one, except for C. And now he gives a reason. He has a chiastic structure here where you could see A, B, D. C's not in there, E, F, and G. So he organizes it into an outer, a middle, an inner, and a focus. Of course, we said the focus, chapter 19, would have been the actual Ark of the Covenant. And then as you move away, you go to the inner, which is the Holy of Holies. So these chapters would deal with kind of analogous to the Holy of Holies. In the middle would be the holy place. So B and F, these chapters would deal with, be analogous to the holy place. And then the outer would be the outer courtyard. A and G would be analogous to the outer courtyard. So I just wanted to go back here a little bit. The reason he gives for not including C, so there's 22 units in total. So if you take the 3 out, that means there's 9 above. Gotta go back, sorry. You have 9 above, take out C. You have 9 above and 9 below. So that would be total of 20 or 19, right? And then these 3 would make 22. So his reasoning being, where was that at? Right here. This structure accounts for 19 of the 22 units. The 3 remaining units are not part of the introversion or the chiasm. Interestingly, the 3 superfluous units all deal exclusively with impurities. It is as if the redactor had stated that the symmetrical structure is pure and that the asymmetry created by the addition of the units on impurities makes the structure itself impure. The reader, like the priest, must remove the impure from the camp or the structure in order to maintain its purity. So that's his reasoning, and so you can get a better idea here. Now, in the chiasm, now we know we read chapter 18 last week, right? Which deals all about what are illegitimate sexual practices that he tells them, you don't do this. This is what the people of the world, the pagans, they're doing. You're not to do these things. So when you go across, chapter 20 is the chapter that deals with the punishments for committing these sins. So you can see chiastically, it's opposite. And so a few of the more prominent ones are here. You have chapter 11 and chapter 23. So what are these chapters about? Who can tell me? Chapter 11 and chapter 23. Anybody? Don't be shy.
Chapter 11 is about the ritual purity. Chapter 23 is about the ritual feasts.
Right. Yeah, so this is the food you can and cannot eat. And these are, as you say, the feast. So wouldn't you say that as part of our identity, these are probably the two strongest things that we identify with how we eat. We don't eat pork, shrimp, all that kind of stuff. We eat as kosher as possible. And we celebrate the feast. These are the two things that kind of mark our walk. Would you say that's true?
It's
So
interesting.
yeah,
Well,
it's
it's interesting.
interesting that they're opposite each other on this conversion.
Yeah, it's interesting that those two things are the things that have been attacked all through history.
Yeah. So the other thing here, I'll just note briefly is this one, chapter 12 and number 6 and 17 here, chapter 22 verses 26 through 33. This unit here in chapter 12 is only 8 verses long. This is the chapter that deals with when a mother has a male child, and on the 8th day he is circumcised. This unit 17, it's also 8 verses long. It deals with an animal who has a kid or a lamb or a calf, whatever the animal may be, and you cannot take that animal away from its mother for 7 days. But on the 8th day, you can use the animal for sacrifice. So you can see how chiastically they're opposite each other. So these three are probably the most prominent of the three that would just, typify that. So moving now, this one is really interesting here, but so I just wanted to note too that where this chart he does have the God-oriented, connecting God and people-oriented. So it moves forward, and then it will move in reverse. That's why he actually they look reversed here, but you're going from 12 to 14. Here he kind of has an chiastic structure. So here he's kind of expanded it into the books of Exodus and Numbers. So we have this unit 13, chapter 19. Here's the focus, the ark, then the chapters and the units dealing with the Holy of Holies, the holy place, the courtyard, and before that, remember when we started in Exodus? So in Exodus verses 1 through 24, Exodus 1 through 24 and Numbers 10 through 35, these two sections deal with the narrative parts of the story. So when you start in chapter 25 here in Exodus, that's when you're dealing with all the tabernacle stuff. He's calling it the Levitical encampment, up through when you get to Leviticus, and then you work your way to 19, and then you're going backwards, and then when you get to the first part of Numbers 1 through 9. There's more, he goes more into the tabernacle narratives and such. And then when you get 10 to 35, you're back to the narrative part of the story. So you could see the whole chiastic structure right here. Remember when Aaron, at the beginning of Exodus, he was told to go out into the wilderness to meet his brother. And do you think Aaron ever suspected that he would end up here? I don't think so. So it must have been quite a ride for him. And that's in the space of about a 1.5 year period from here to here. So earlier in this article, we read how it's kind of an experience of the high priest, and we're talking of Aaron. So Aaron comes from the mundane. He's chosen. He goes through all the ordination process and the consecration, and he learns all about the proper way to do all the sacrifices and what to do, what not to do. And then it leads to the day of Yom Kippur, when he goes into the Holy of Holies and he makes atonement for the entire nation. And then when he's done and he takes off his holy garments and puts on his regular clothes, and he goes back out to the people, and eventually he's back with the people. So it's an interesting way of looking at the book. I never really realized just that basically this chiastic structure was even there till I read this article. And I haven't read the Mary Douglas book yet, but is Deborah here? Is she listening? Deborah's not here. Deborah has actually bought the book. I don't know if she started reading it. That's this person, Mary Douglas. She was a British archaeologist, and she wrote a book called Leviticus as Literature. And I haven't read the book yet, but this guy on his website, he says that both Mary Douglas and Jacob Milgrom were mentors of his. So he's kind of taken what she started and run with it. Now, there's a lot more to this article, but I'm going to stop there. It gets a little more intense, but you can see he kind of goes into a lot of very detailed stuff, but I haven't had time to get into all that. I've only got really as far as this, which is kind of the basic. So I'd like to hear if anybody has any feedback, comments, or anything.
So I think it's pretty interesting, Mike. It's probably a little weighty for me.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that that recent chiastic structure that you showed right there that's on the screen.
This one, yeah, this
Yeah.
is pretty understandable. It kind of leads up to that.
So if I'm understanding that correctly, Aaron goes from what you were saying, the mundane, to entering into the holy. And then when he goes back out to the people, he has sort of the understanding of being that priest, and then is able to go out to the people as an example. Is that kind
Yeah,
of it?
because he's going to have to go back out and interact with people
Mhm.
now as a high priest. When he started out, he was just a regular guy, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when Yeshua started out as a regular guy and then made his way to the holy place when he finally ascended into heaven, and
Yeah,
then he made his way back down to earth with the people again.
yeah,
So
that's a good analogy, yeah.
so almost the same path that you're showing us here that the high priest did, Yeshua did pretty much the same thing if you kind of look at it that way.
Yeah. So what this author is trying to get across is that we should be reading Leviticus in light of this and not just reading it as just a bunch of commandments here and there. There is an actual structure to it. And I believe that that just points to the greatness of our God, that he would actually lay this out, and it's there for people to see. You just have to see it. And
If we were watching the whole thing being
yeah,
done, if we were in the encampment watching it, we would probably pick up a whole lot more than just reading.
yeah, because the people there in real time are watching this happen. They're going from being slaves to now they're watching Aaron being ordained as the first high priest, and learning learning how they should lead their lives in holiness. So
Are you going to explain that part where it was the C? You said that was sort of the focus.
no, C. No, he took the C this C part out of the because they're impurities. This is the
Okay.
pure part, and so that he has a structure where he just says A, B, D, E, F, and G. A is chiastically tied to G, D is chiastically tied to F, and D to E. And then chapter 19 is the central part
Okay.
or focus. So we've read up through 19 through the middle. Now as we start going back, we're kind of going backwards now, 20 through 27. So in a chiastic way, so as we read on, just, pay attention to what is opposite chiastically. And if you want a copy of this, you can go to this guy's website. I downloaded this and the other one I was working from last week. This one is only 18 pages long. The other one's like 59. It was very intense. But this one gets pretty intense after I only went up I think about halfway, and but I've actually been through 20, so there's another 8. This is about halfway through the article. But I've actually kind of been studying this for like probably about 2 months, so I have a head start on you guys. But because when I first started, before I got into Leviticus, I was praying. I'm like, I don't know anything about Leviticus. How am I going to teach Leviticus? So I was just praying for something, and that's when somebody put on one of Rico Cortez's videos, and in his video he was talking about Jacob Milgram, that he was the leading scholar on the book of Leviticus, recent scholar. He I think passed away I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so. And I think Mary Douglas probably about 2007. But they they were both born, I think she was born in like 1923 and he, maybe a little later. So most of their work was done in the latter part of the 20th century, but in the first part of this century, they were regarded as probably two leading experts on the book of Leviticus. And Mary Douglas isn't even a biblical scholar. She's, I think, an anthropologist. There's somebody who studies social patterns. So I guess it would be natural for an anthropologist to study this kind of thing. So he was talking, Rico Cortez was talking about Jacob Milgram. So I thought, you know, maybe I'll look into that. And I ordered his book, and I've been going through his book and pretty much as I can teaching from his book in Leviticus. And then he was the one, Jacob Milgram, who was talking about Mary Douglas. So I started researching her, and I haven't ordered the book yet. I would like to get the book and read it. But this guy, he's kind of building on what she wrote about. So, anyways, that's that. If you're interested, you can download this. I would recommend it. It is a little bit dense, but it is, I think, worth the effort. So we will stop there, and I think we have time. We could start on chapter 20. Okay. So chapter 20. So this chapter is the chapter that relates to Leviticus 18. Hang on, let me get one thing here. There we go. So I made we'll just go over this outline I made. So in Leviticus 18, they were basically listed by relationship, all these sins that they talked about, their closest relationships, then relationships not as close, like a brother's wife or something like that, and then relationships to people that are not part of your immediate family. Here, the order goes more of the severity of the sin and the severity of the punishment. So it's kind of broken into three parts. Those that deal with the death penalty, those that deal with carrot, or just being cut off from the fellowship, and then the people who die childless.
Mike.
Yes.
So if 20 is dealing with the death penalty, and this is the last chapter before you go into 18 through 20 is dealing with the moral purity. And then you go into 21 through 22, which is the qualifications. So you can't even think about becoming a priest until the death penalty is removed.
Right.
It's almost like when Yeshua died on the tree, and thus enabling us to step into that next segment, which is to become qualified or go through the qualifications of becoming a priesthood, because the death had to be dealt with.
Right. Okay. So let's just read it to begin. 27 verses. And Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, Whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that gives any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people. So this is not just being cut off like down below. This is getting personal, it seems. Because he has given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name. And if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from the man when he gives of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him, to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people. And the soul that turns after such as having familiar spirits, and after wizards to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off among his people. Sanctify yourself, therefore, and be ye holy, for I am Yahweh your Elohim. And ye shall keep my statutes and do them. I am Yahweh, which sanctify you.
So Mike.
Yeah.
So the northern kingdom did do this with Moloch. And so it says in verse 5, I myself will set my face against that man and against his family, all of the generations. So everybody's got to go out. They've got to be expelled until this is dealt with.
Right. And it is interesting that in these first two, he does say, I will set my face against that man. So he doesn't say that about as you go down the line. It's only these first two. So it just shows that these are the most grievous of all these sins that are happening. Where do we end up here? Verse 9. For everyone that curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. He has cursed his father or his mother, his blood shall be upon him. And the man that commits adultery with another man's wife, even he that commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. And the man that lies with his father's wife has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man lie with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall surely be put to death. They have wrought confusion. Their blood shall be upon them. If a man also lie with mankind as he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man take a wife and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burnt with fire, both he and they, that there be no wickedness among you. And if a man lies with a beast, he shall surely be put to death. He shall slay the beast. If a woman approaches unto any beast and lie down there too, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing. They shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness. He shall bear his iniquity. And if a man shall lie with a woman having her sickness, and shall uncover her nakedness, he has discovered her fountain, and she has uncovered the fountain of her blood, and both of them shall be cut off from among their people. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, nor of thy father's sister, for he uncovereth his near kin, they shall bear their iniquity. And if a man shall lie with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They shall bear their sin. They shall die childless. If a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They shall be childless. He shall therefore keep all my statutes, all my judgments, and do them, that the land whither I bring you to dwell therein spew you not out. And you shall not walk in the manner of the nation, which I cast out before you. For they committed all these things, and therefore I abhorred them. But I have said unto you, you shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you to possess it, a land that flows with milk and honey. I am Yahweh your Elohim, which has separated you from other people. You therefore, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the adversary is just playing the scheme of Balaam. All he's got to do is get the people of God to do these things, and they disqualify themselves.
Yep. Get spewed out. You shall therefore put difference between clean animals and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean. And you shall not make your souls abominable by beast or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creeps on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. And you shall be holy unto me, for I, Yahweh, am holy, and have severed you from other people, that you should be mine. A man also that has a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them. So in the death penalty, the first two, verse 1 through 5, is anyone who gives his children to Molech. And the second one, turning to mediums and necromancers, verse 6 and 27. Maybe he forgot to put it in there and say, oh yeah, I forgot this part. But in each of these, that's where Yahweh says, let's read what he says that. He says, I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off. So in this case, both these cases, it's Yahweh himself who's setting his face personally against anyone who commits these particular sins. And each of these two are death by stoning. All the others, except for here in verse 14, where it's burned by fire, they don't specify how they are to be killed. But death by stoning, and I referenced the verse in 18, this is in 18:21, where you find the verse about Molech. You don't find this in 18, but in 19 he does mention it, 19:31. Verse 7 and 8 is an intermediate exhortation where he tells them to be holy because I am holy, guard all my statutes. Then he goes on, verse 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and 15, and 16 are all the sins that warrant a death sentence. And then the second part, the karet, the part being cut off, verses 18 and 15, a man who takes his sister, or a man who lies with a menstruating woman, these will be punished by being cut off. The sins where they die childless, man who lies with his aunt or takes his brother's wife. Now, an interesting idea about this idea of being cut off. You're not only cut off in this life, separated from the people, but you're cut off in the life, the world to come after death. Because a lot of times in scriptures, when a person dies, they say he will be buried or with his fathers, or he will be laid to rest with his fathers, something like that, with his fathers. In the case of a person, especially I would imagine in these two cases, this person being cut off, they're not only cut off in this life, but in the next life. They're not buried with their fathers. So,
Hey, Mike,
yeah.
Desert Diva has a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Let me, Mark Webb has left the building. I have a question. Didn't they marry their sisters? So was it, or was it when they shared only one parent or both? No. Yes, we talked a little bit about that last week. And was Lisa asked that question? Did you ask that question too, Lisa?
Yeah, I kind of posed that question because I didn't really have a
I think
thorough answer for it.
the reason the answer I came up with when, whoops. I had written that down about the when they grumbled before and after when they got to Sinai. I just gotta find it. You remember that, Lisa?
Yeah, I think that we never got a chance to, we had to leave the Zoom, so we didn't get a chance to fully discuss it. You started, but I don't think we finished.
Okay. Well, there are these verses. If you look at what happens after they leave Egypt, before and after the Mount Sinai incident, you want to write down these verses. In Exodus chapter 15, verses 24, 25, 16, 1 through 12, 16, 20 through 27, and 17, 1 through 7. And then in the book of Numbers, chapter 21, verse 4 through 6, chapter 11, 1 through 5, and 31 through 34, chapter 15, verse 32 through 36, and chapter 20, 1 through 13. So when you read those, you'll see those are the times that they grumbled against Moses. And each time they grumbled before Sinai, nothing happened. They were just grumbling about water, they were given water. Grumbled about food, he sent quail. After Sinai, when they grumbled, he sent plagues. The serpents, that was one of them. At the time he sent quail, and they had so much quail that in their mouths that they were just dying by plague or whatever. So my idea is that, or what a lot of people think, is that before the actual written covenant, these types of things, because we had talked about how Abraham married his half sister Sarah, or Jacob, he got married to Leah. Then a week later, he marries his sister Rebecca, or not Rebecca, but Rachel. So these were actually two things that were listed in Leviticus 18. So it seems like until the word became written, and now they're in a covenant relationship, that they are required to do these things, whereas before it was not a requirement. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Kind of. So I understand that the severity of the punishment went up after the covenant was written, but what's the connection with sisters, marrying sisters or marrying within the family?
I think in 18 it was
Mike, we can't start the Vancouver meeting until this one ends, Mark is telling.
Okay, we're gonna have to close. We'll talk about this more next week.
Okay, sounds good, Mike.
Okay, sorry. Good night, everybody. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Shalom.
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 Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. See
Mike.
you all later.
All right.
Shalom, shalom.
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 Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Have a good evening.
Um.
Shalom.